Well, hey everybody, another week and things in the UK continue to get extremely interesting. Now do watch the video that I did on predictions for the UK at the beginning of the year, because I said as we go to the end of the year where Pluto, which is going retrograde in Aquarius, will be opposite Jupiter in Leo in the 10th house, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if Keir Starmer holds on. So at the beginning of the year, I said despite the fact that he's just won a so-called very big majority, except on very slim votes. It's only because of the first past the system and the way reform kind of split the vote in the various constituencies that they got such an enormous majority in Parliament, even with only 1/5 of their people in the UK voting for them. It seems that he was in solidly and nothing would shift him because, as we know, Labour don't remove their leaders easily, and there's no one to take over. He's extremely weak, he's gormless, he's wooden, he's got no charisma, no idea, but really, who's going to replace him? So I was speculating from the beginning of the year that he wouldn't last. And as this crisis with the bond market gets worse and worse, borrowing costs going up. Now it's the highest since 1998, the amount the government are paying in borrowing because of the bond market. You can see it's getting desperate. And I talked the other day about how, the stringent sort of tax measures that they're coming up with are getting more and more ludicrous. But taxes aren't going to work, because even if they do raise all these taxes, which, as we know, higher taxes usually lead to a lower tax take because people are disincentivized, etc., etc. There's a long tax cycle before you can really recoup all those charges. So it's not going to fix things immediately, and things get steadily worse in the now. How do they stem the flow right now? They don't have a clue. Right now, we have this year a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. It didn't quite reach full conjunction because they came within a few orbs, then separated. But in January next year, we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. And there hasn't been a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries since the 1300s. Incidentally, the exact time of the last Peasants' Revolt was in 1381, which was the time of the Peasants' Revolt in England. Now, I'm just seeing so many synergies here because Peasants' Revolt, right, 1381, under the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And where did it start? It started in Essex. Where do things started right now? Basically, Epping in Essex. Epping has been the kind of flashpoint. The initial protest against the migrant hotel, which is just one kind of pillar of the things that are happening. It plays into the whole financial crisis, the cultural crisis that the country is in. So it became the protest that has set off protests across the country. Now there's going to be this big rally. I know it's kind of Tommy Robinson-ish, but I do think that a lot of people, whether they are on the Tommy bandwagon or not, will be perhaps going to this march on the 13th of September. Then Trump is supposed to be doing a state visit to the UK, and I feel that could be an interesting dynamic because loads of people are kind of looking to America and looking to Trump to put pressure on Starmer. Whether he will or not, gosh, that remains to be seen. But a lot of people are looking towards that. So is there going to be some sort of upswell, some mass sort of uprising, whether it's in terms of strikes or protests? Is it going to be something really significant? Because as you see there, the Peasants' Revolt was a long time ago. And there hasn't been this impetus astrologically in the UK chart for a long time. Let's just see what it says about the Peasants' Revolt, right? This is from Wikipedia, so pretty middle of the road. So it says the Peasants' Revolt was also named Wat Tyler's Rebellion or the Great Rising, and it was a major uprising across large parts of England in 1381. Now, it had various causes, socioeconomic, just like now, right? Political tensions generated by the Black Death in the 1340s, right? Political tensions. Where does a lot of this stuff come from? COVID, right? We've just, similar to the Black Death, we had COVID, which created socioeconomic woes. It also resulted in a lot of people becoming more discontent, waking up, right? So that's very, very similar. Also, very high taxes. That's what they were protesting against, resulting from the conflict with France in the 100 Years' War. Well, now we have very high taxes because of COVID and because of the Ukraine thing. So again, lots of similarities, and also instability within local leadership in London. And the revolt influenced the course of the 100 Years' War by deterring later parliaments from raising additional taxes to pay for military campaigns. So that could be interesting for side effect of this whole thing as well. So there's so many similarities. And the trigger was the intervention of a royal official, John Brampton, in Essex. So again, it all kicked off in Essex. And he attempted to collect unpaid poll taxes in Brentwood. And this ended in a violent confrontation, which rapidly spread across the southeast. A wide spectrum of rural society, including many local artisans, village officials, rose up in protest, burning court records and opening the local prison. So also similar about the poll tax, because one of the taxes being proposed now are, capital gains tax on property, changing the council tax bands. So again, so many similarities. Was rather disturbed about the raft of sort of highly socialist people that Starmer has brought in as tax advisors to sort of sideline Rachel Reeves, because their ideas are even more radical. Now, I was saying the other day about this whole VAT thing. Currently you only pay VAT once you go beyond sort of 62-ish thousand pounds in revenue. They want to bring that down to 50 and down to 30. 31,500 is the average salary. So it's going to capture so many more people in VAT. Who's this going to hit hard? Small businesses. Small businesses who are already struggling will now have to charge an extra 20%, taking away the competitive advantage they may have over bigger companies, because bigger companies charge VAT. Dreadful. It's an attack on your small trader. It's also an attack from an administrative level, because if you have to account for VAT, you really need an accountant. It's lots more paperwork. So an administrative burden sort of impacts your efficiency and productivity in your business. It's a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful mistake. It's also going to raise costs for the wider public as well in terms of goods and services, and it deters entrepreneurship, it deters work. And this whole thing is more and more of an attack on the small business owner and the working class. Now, what also I have to say about this is, in terms of a lot of people talking about uprisings, revolts, revolution, which I think is a little bit on the extreme end of the scale, there are too many people that are very, very comfortable. People who work for big companies are very comfortable because they're on excellent salaries. Everyone who works for government, be it in the police, NHS, civil service, and there's a lot of these people, local councils, are all on very good salaries, very good pensions. They are not going to want to rock the boat. Then you get a whole lot of people who won't bite the hand that feed them. The people who are on benefits, on getting social credits, getting who aren't working, right, getting disability benefits. All these people won't want to rock the boat. So this creates a problem, because there's an enormous amount of society that are riding well on the current bandwagon, and there's another part of society that are being desperately impacted. Now, something that could bring the higher earners onto our side is the fact that they want to charge this capital gains tax on properties over 1.5 million when you sell your property. But also, if you decide to up sticks and leave the UK and you happen to own one of these high value properties, they're going to charge you capital tax, or it's proposed, when you leave the country, to deter people leaving. So this is now becoming quite an attack on the higher value members of society as well, who may want to leave. Just to say as well, another big category of person who's doing very well is the media. They all make a lot of money in the media. They love the circus. They've got no incentive to kind of push back at all. So, David Icke's always talking about, we're the 1%, they're the 99%, we're the 99%, they're the 1%. As you can see, when you break it down, it's not so at all. There's an awful lot of people who are benefiting from the current system, be they in it or taking benefits. The last thing they're going to do is want to rock the boat. But you can see the desperation, because this raft of tax measures is so comprehensive, so far-ranging, and so punitive that I don't think any government can last bringing these in when they don't want to compromise on any of their clearly boneheaded strategies, from carbon capture, net zero, which is also leading to the UK people paying the highest, electricity prices in the whole of Europe. They're not going to compromise on any of those, and they're not going to compromise as well on the boat incomings side of things, because these are all part of an agenda. Now, will the IMF come in? That France is in dire straits, so the IMF cannot bail them both out. It's unlikely. Someone said that, they won't accept the conditions of the IMF. Well, will they be in a position to say they won't? They're going to have to do something. Something's got to give. And I don't think these taxing people to death is only going to further ruin the economy, disincentivize work, cause people to leave no matter what the obstacles and disincentivize work over sort of 30,000. If people are going to have to pay that, people will continue to look for ways out.